Hey everyone, so this is a brand new Roblox Spray Paint video. I'm kind of changing the video format a little bit. From the video title, you can tell that this is a redo of my previous attempt at the Mona Lisa, and I just think that previous video was a good attempt. It just felt very half-baked because of how I kind of treated the subject and the background a little too separately. And what I mean by that is I put all my attention into the subject and I treated the background as this afterthought, and it resulted in quite a half-finished look to the entire piece. So today we'll be giving attention to everything, background and the subject, and really making it feel like a complete study this time. So from the very beginning of the video, you can see that I was starting the sketch, constantly looking at the reference, of course. What you're seeing now is me blocking in all the major colors. Now, I did try to be as resourceful with my layers because I know how this game is like when you have multiple layers, especially with all the opacities, like the different gradients, and all like stacking up on top of each other. And I think you also saw that at the bottom I did kind of extend the canvas downwards because I did get my estimations a little incorrect. But again, this is digital, so I have the freedom to just add and take away as easily as possible. You will also see layers kind of popping in and out. For me, that was just my way of like to focus on a certain area. And also I think the eyedrop tool was not working properly. I always had to disable the base canvas color and then pick a color for some reason. But again, yeah, you'll see a lot of layers being turned on and off, so I hope that's not too jarring. And you saw there that I was starting to invest time into the face, and I kind of just stopped myself there because part of this whole redoing video was really giving everything the attention it deserved, so that means the background, of course. There were also some mid-ground stuff that I didn't notice before in the Mona Lisa painting. So there's actually like a wall and there's like a black like vase or something over to her left and right. All these like little details I never really considered looking at beforehand with the Mona Lisa because all the attention is really on her as the subject. But when it came to the background, I really started to see things that I've never seen in the painting. Like in the background there's like a bridge, of course there's like interesting like mountain shapes as well. So yeah, I'm quite glad that I'm giving everything the needed attention because it really helped make the piece a lot more complete looking compared to my previous video attempt. So from the big shapes that I put down, you can see that I started putting in those medium shapes, you could say. They're not exactly rendering, but just to establish the medium details, I guess, in the piece. And here I do start rendering like the clothing and the cloth. And that softness is helped with the opacity tool because I was able to really control all the rendering highlights of like the clothing and the folds. It was honestly super tempting to just put all my time and investment into the clothing. I immediately went to rendering parts of the background, like the small mountains and stuff. Doing this just immediately made a night and day difference compared to my previous attempt of this Mona Lisa study. And I'm super glad that I'm giving attention to the background at this stage because it really shows off in the final product that every part, not just Mona Lisa, was given detailed attention. And as a result, the background doesn't feel like this afterthought that you do at the very end. And you can really see that equal amount of attention comparing the cloth rendering and the mountain rendering. You can see that they were really given time, that equal amount of care. So this part of the sky in the original painting, it was full of gradients and subtle blues and greens, and I was wondering how I would even do that, but you can see that the opacity just helps with all those subtle blendings. So now I felt like it was time to start rendering the clothing parts. You can see all the opacity here. A lot of things are just encased with zero detail at all, and it's down to these little blotches of color that are visible in the light. But your brain is very good at filling in the gaps, and just enough amount of information is enough to make it look proper. So you can see here, she's resting her elbow on like a stool, but there's barely any of it visible. You can barely see her arm, her waist, all like coated in this dark brown. But it's those subtle opacity bits that really sell the illusion that there's something there and that there's things in the dark that you really can't see. But yeah, you'll see a lot of just blank dark browns, especially in those dark areas. So you can see here that I start to work on the skin very slowly. The opacity really helping out here because of how extremely subtle some tones are in the painting itself. I did have to redo the positioning of the fingers a tiny bit, but yeah, the hands were a decent challenge here. And yeah, just finding that balance of softness and definition was quite a challenge here, especially with that lower hand. So now from the background to actually rendering Mona Lisa this time with her hair here. This part of the hair was quite fun. I think the subtle veil was done pretty effectively here with the low opacity. Again, what I said about the majority of the dark blank brown spots. I didn't do every single strand of hair here. Again, just using that opacity tool to give the illusion of depth, that there's more hair in the dark, even though I didn't put any detail there. And now we finally get to the actual rendering of the face, which was the most intimidating but the most tempting at the same time. Again, with the original painting, not a lot of parts were like strikingly bold, so you can see me here going over and using a lighter opacity on the super bold areas, like where her eyelids were. And like under the neck, again getting rid of as much of that bold brush as possible because it was just way too definitive. And the nose and the lips here get moved around a bit, but again using the low opacity just to subtly build up the lips. And I kind of struggled with that smile because it was super subtle. A lot of things about this painting are quite subtle with its detail. Here the eyelids felt really strange to me, but again I knew it was because I wasn't being as subtle enough. So when I was going in here with the highlights of her skin, again, a lot of this build-up was so subtle that too much would make the face look super muddy. If you blend a certain light on the cheek wrong, it will make her face look super weird. There was a lot of redos here, a lot of subtle build-up and a lot of taking away, but I think I did the best that I can here. And I nearly forgot about the touches of light on her sleeves, but of course adding those in as well. Again, just so much subtlety to the rendering and the lighting. And here is the final result. I wanted to present it this way because every time I faced the camera at the spray paint, it would just lag the server, so I couldn't do the usual B-roll footage at the end. Sorry about that. Take it all in as it is like this. There's a very formal presentation of it. If you want to check out how I approached it previously, you can check out the video on the screen now. Like, comment and subscribe if you want, and I'll see you guys next time.